In my past life, Eric was granted direct admission to a university. I followed him and got into the same city's university. Later, we became a couple. But the day before our engagement, he received a wedding invitation from Sharon. She was as pure and beautiful as ever in the photo. As I was full of joy preparing for our engagement, he drunkenly grabbed my neck, squeezing it tightly. "Are you satisfied now? If it weren't for your jealousy back then, would I have been engaged to you?" I struggled painfully for what seemed like forever. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. Reborn to the day the direct admission list was released. This time, I didn't try to stop him from giving up his spot. I had thought he would be happily with Sharon as he wished, but he cruelly caused her death. Last month, the results of the university's early admission exam came out. The teacher held a thick stack of documents, a mysterious smile on his face. When I heard those words, I felt lightheaded and had difficulty breathing. Eric is the only student in our class to appear on the direct admission pre-selection list. First of all, congratulations to this student. After confirming the enrollment in 2 weeks, he will be our class's first student to attend a prestigious university. The class burst into applause. Sharon also participated, though she didn't make the pre-admission list. Fortunately, having fulfilled Wansi, she's first on the alternate list. If she's lucky. I instantly snapped to attention when I heard their names, realizing I had truly been reborn. Just like last time, after class, Sharon slumped on her desk, crying bitterly. The class was split into 2 groups. One gathered around Eric, flattering him. "Don't forget us when you make it big." The other comforted Sharon. "Poetry. Don't be disheartened. If you don't get direct admission, there's always the regular entrance exam." Eric stood up and walked straight toward Sharon. "Poetry. I like you. I'll give you my spot for direct admission. I'm confident I can get into a university through the regular exam." A murmur of surprise swept through the room. Most of the students focused on the first sentence, as the latter part seemed more like a joke about his future plans. Everyone knew Eric and I had been childhood friends. Although we were never officially together, everyone had long assumed we were inseparable. All eyes turned to me as they began gossiping. "Wendy, isn't your childhood friend running off with someone else? Aren't you going to stop him?" In my past life, I was afraid he might make a rash decision. I quickly left the classroom and called Kathy, Sharon's mother. When Kathy found out, she rushed to the school in a frenzy. Ignoring everyone's stares, she knelt before Eric, clutching his pants tightly. "Son, I know you have the ability to get into a top school through the entrance exam, but I've heard of so many cases where top students fail to live up to their potential. You've finally been given a chance. And all you need to do is confirm it. After 12 years, my burden is almost over. And now you want to throw it all away?" Eric's father passed away early. And it was his mother, working tirelessly in a fruit store, who raised him. In today's education system, where resources are heavily imbalanced, it takes an immense amount of effort to lift someone from a humble background into a prestigious university. Eric knew how much his mother had sacrificed. It was only after Kathy and I persuaded him that he finally secured his spot. This time, I did nothing. I left the classroom without a word and hid behind a door in the corridor to listen. What a joke. Wendy's grades have always been terrible. Her dad asked me to help her out with studies. So out of neighborly kindness, I agreed. That's why we've been so close. Without me, with her grades, she'd probably struggle just to get into a regular university. Eric said smugly. But now, there's someone more important. Even though Wendy's my neighbor of many years, she's got to take a back seat. Sharon, who had been upset about the direct admission results a second ago, now basked in the achievement of being pursued by the top student. She smugly said, "Oh, come on. Stop joking." The next second, she feigned an innocent expression. "Isn't this a bit much? If you really give up your spot for me, Wendy will go crazy." The whole class knew how much I'd sacrificed to help Eric secure his spot. "Yeah. Wendy helped you with your studies. Found you practice questions. Even took a day off to bring you lunch on exam day. But Sharon is a beauty. What guy wouldn't be into her? And her grades are much better than Wendy's." She's a perfect match for Eric. Sharon smiled at the approval of the class. Feeling satisfied, I stood outside, gripping my clothes tightly, unable to move as my body stiffened. It was true. Sharon was famous for her beauty at school, and as the only daughter of a wealthy family, you could often see her delicate figure by the window, her fair face glowing in the sunlight. Pure and charming. She radiated youthful energy. She was the first love of many boys, including Eric. In the first year of high school, Eric's grades were particularly good. He was in the middle of the class. In the second year, after being separated into different classes, he saw Sharon and started to push himself harder. With his innate talent for studying, he quickly surpassed Sharon, the perennial top student. It seemed that academic excellence was the usual way to attract attention. Eric, typically oblivious to romantic gestures, started writing acrostic poems and slipping love letters into Sharon's desk. Though he never received a reply, he seemed content. As for me, Wendy, I had been Eric's neighbor and childhood friend for over 10 years. He had seen me at my most embarrassed, drunk on fermented rice, while I had witnessed him sneaking off to cry after losing a basketball game. I helped him with his homework, and he tutored me. We had shared countless days of growing up side by side, healing each other's wounds. He was gentle and handsome, always leaving a lasting impression with his elegant demeanor. In my heart, this friendship had slowly evolved into something deeper, something he surely knew, but he had never responded. Even when we were together, up until the engagement, I had never received a sincere confession. Only on the night he agreed to be with me, I received a simple through a text. I had once convinced myself was sincere, warm, thoughtful, and filled with love. Any public display of affection was always turned down by him with excuses like shy or embarrassed. Until now, his public confession slapped me in the face. Love and indifference, there was no mistaking it. But only now, I saw it clearly. In the evening, he came to find me. Wendy, I've decided to give up on the recommendation. What do you think? I looked at him. Not saying a word, he added, I thought you'd have a bigger reaction to this. Anyway, don't tell my mom, I replied. With my grades, I can still get into a university through the regular college entrance exam. But I'm worried about Shishiri. You're actually quite nice, he mumbled. Like a madman, Eric muttered. With only 3 months left until the college entrance exam, subjects like math, she probably won't be able to improve significantly in such a short time. I don't want her to be too exhausted. And she doesn't want to be in a long-distance relationship with me. I also don't want to be too far from her. This way, we can't see each other often. And I can't take care of her. Memories of the past life surged within me. After Eric was successfully recommended under the persuasion of me and Kathy, Sharon went to a university in another province. And they became a long-distance couple. That solitary act ended without much development. What I hadn't expected was that this matter became a thorn in Eric's heart, and gradually turned into hatred towards me. The me, Helena Losai, who had genuinely considered his future, became the villain in his eyes. Someone who was consumed by jealousy in the name of love, who was misunderstood by Kathy as trying to win back his love. This time, I chose to respect his wishes. But out of a final shred of goodwill, I still asked, if she really likes you, couldn't she go to a prestigious school in the same city as you? You don't have to go to the same university to be in love. Right? You don't understand. A university has always been Shishi's dream. He snapped, looking agitated. Come to think of it, I feel like a life without taking the college entrance exam is incomplete. Watch. I'll still get into a university based on my exam scores, he said, his eyes gleaming with pride. Maybe I'll even get the top score in the province. He was beyond saving. I set my milk tea down and gazed out the window, thinking, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. A university wasn't that also the dream you had been working towards since middle school? Countless nights of struggle, endless exercises, vocabulary that could never be finished. Are you really willing to take this risk? For Sharon? In my past life, Eric strangled me. His malicious eyes once again flashing in my mind. After a moment of thought, I smiled faintly. Well then. I wish you the best of luck with the college entrance exam. If I remember correctly, there were indeed 5 or 6 lesser-known majors in previous years that were eligible for a university, but this year, the difficulty of the exam was the highest in recent memory. So no one made it into a university. The topics of that year's entrance exam essay, and the final few difficult questions in math even made the headlines. Maybe Eric really was destined for greatness. He could truly have both love and academic success. After a university started, he began a heart-connecting love story with his goddess. Anyway, I was looking forward to it. I was pretending. In my past life, I spent all my energy providing emotional support to Eric. I cared too much about him. Every little mood has mattered to me. So much so that I wore myself down emotionally, neglecting my own studies. My sincere heart was finally met with Eric's words. What makes you think you can replace Sharon? You academic failure? In order to gain his approval, I went on to pursue a graduate degree after my bachelor's. I kept proving myself. Over and over. But why? I am who I am. Why should I replace Sharon? In this life, after being reborn, I just wanted to live for myself. With the memories from my past life, high school knowledge was no longer difficult for me. I spent every day filling in the gaps in my knowledge. To make up for the regret of the college entrance exam, I studied late into the night. I didn't want to bet on anyone's sincerity. I just wanted to bet on myself. At first, Sharon, with her inherent arrogance as a top student, didn't want to use this method to get into a university. So, every day, Eric would tutor her regularly. Until Sharon overheard gossip in class, thinking that the two families had already arranged a marriage. And that she was the third party. A desire to win arose in her. Eric, don't come looking for me anymore. Sharon's sudden coldness caught Eric off guard. With only a few months left until the exam, no matter how hard I try, some subjects can't improve in such a short time. I'm planning. If I can't get into a university, I'll go abroad. We're destined to separate. And there's no need to be together all the time now. Eric panicked. Shishi. It won't happen. You can make it. You promised me that after the exam, we'd be together. Looking up, Sharon's tear-streaked face reflected a heartbreaking sadness under the sunlight. Math is too hard. Really too hard. But I don't want to go to a school other than a university. I don't want to be too far from you. Eric gazed at Sharon. His eyes filled with determination. It won't happen. You'll definitely be a student at a university. I promise. Sharon responded with teary eyes, locking gazes with Eric for a long while. The next moment, her delicate body shrank into Eric's embrace. The next morning, Kathy hung a banner in front of the fruit shop. Eric successfully got into a university without taking the exam. The neighbors who knew them looked on enviously. This is the top university. Your son must be a promising young man. You're going to have a blessed life. There were still some passers-by who were confused. What does being recommended mean? Why is your daughter still preparing for the college entrance exam, but your son has already been admitted? Kathy stopped what she was doing, raised an eyebrow, and a proud gleam sparkled in her eyes. It means he was admitted without taking the exam, while others are still studying for the exam. My son is already on summer break. At that moment, Eric appeared at the door with a complicated expression on his face. Eric's back. Mom bought you the most expensive plane ticket. To make sure you go to the university confirmation smoothly, she said, patting his shoulder with a satisfied smile. Finally, heading fulfilledly. We've raised a university student. Eric said nothing, only offering a faint smile before heading back to his study. Kathy thought to herself, when did this kid become so humble? The day of the confirmation, Kathy got up early to send Eric to the airport. Remember to call when you arrive in a city. And don't miss the confirmation time. Eric nodded before turning off his phone. The confirmation time was before 5 p.m. Eric deliberately dragged it until 4:50. The other students who had been pre-admitted were all excitedly completing their signings one by one, and no one would ever give up on the recommendation. At 4:55, Eric stared silently at the sign-in sheet for a long time. His mind filled with Sharon's graceful figure and her pure, captivating smile. At 4:59, he finally spoke with certainty. Teacher. After 5 p.m., Kathy started hosting a grand banquet in town. Neighbors and relatives offered their congratulations. Congratulations. After 12 years of hard work, your son has finally made it. From now on, you'll be living a life of luxury. I envy your son. He can finally have his summer vacation. My useless son stays up studying until midnight. Who knows if he'll even get into a regular university? It's driving me crazy. Kathy basked in the compliments, feeling an immense sense of pride and satisfaction. As a neighbor of Eric's family, I, of course, attended the banquet with my father. While Kathy toasted guests, she chatted and laughed with my dad, Wendy's father. Don't put too much pressure on your daughter. Studying is a talent you're born with. Plus, heading so won't say. Your daughter is so beautiful. She'll definitely marry a rich and handsome man one day. And you'll enjoy a comfortable life. But this time, I wouldn't let my father down. I raised my juice cup. Auntie, had a congratulations to you and Eric. She could never have imagined that. This time, let out a low sigh. Without my intervention, her foolish son had already risked ruining his own future, giving away a chance that so many could only dream of, all to someone else. On the same day, Sharon's family held their own celebration. Dad, I got direct admission. The admissions office just called me. Eric, you have to do your best in the entrance exam. Once we get into the same university, we can be together forever. No more pesky childhood friends popping up to get in the way. Sharon held Eric's hand, her eyes crescent-shaped with joy, her cheeks dimpling with a soft smile. Eric's eyes shone with sweetness. Don't worry. I'll be fine. With her grades, she definitely won't make it. The story of the top student sacrificing his direct admission for love quickly spread across the campus. Various fan fictions, love stories, and CP couple fans began popping up on the campus forums. Since they had gotten together, Eric began using the excuse of going to the city to tutor and earn money, renting a place there. But in reality, he was secretly dating Sharon and preparing for the entrance exam. And Eric never reached out to me again. Our years of friendship seemed to vanish from his memory, replaced by Sharon's tender affection. I sat in the corner of the classroom, unnoticed, repeatedly working through the wrong answers from the recent mock exams. With the faint memories of my past life, I focused on practicing key question types over and over. Before I knew it, the college entrance exam was just over a month away. Every time Eric started studying, Sharon would call him. Eric, I'm so bored. Can you chat with me for a bit? Eric, I'm all alone at home. Can we go out shopping? Without fail, Eric would always chat with her for a long time. Sometimes, they'd go out for an entire day. With not enough time to study during the day, Eric would stay up late to catch up, only to sleep until noon the next day. It became a vicious cycle. Finally, heading fell Wyatt sigh. The day before the exam, he fell ill with a high fever. The next day, despite his condition, he gritted his teeth and went to take the exam. Eric was a top student, but he was still human, and there were times when he got sick. After 2 days of barely being conscious, he finished the exam and walked out of the examination hall with a sense of pride. He thought to himself, the questions I couldn't answer will surely stump a lot of people. This exam was undoubtedly difficult, with tricky and highly comprehensive questions. When students exited the exam hall, they all had furrowed brows. Eric stopped me. How was the exam? It was the first time he'd spoken to me in 3 months. I pretended to pout and sighed. What do you think? It's a disaster. The next second, I turned away, sneering to myself. Actually, I thought I did great. On the day the exam results were released, I wasn't the least bit nervous. Because I knew, no matter how bad it was, it would still be better than in my past life. When the screen showed that I was accepted into my top choice, I excitedly opened the window and shouted, I got in. I got in. Kathy immediately told my dad, who was downstairs watching TV. Wendy's father. Did you hear? Your daughter got into a second to a university. She'll catch a rich husband in school. And you'll enjoy your life. My dad adjusted his glasses and changed the TV channel. As long as it's a university she worked hard to get into. It doesn't matter which one. I checked my score in the morning. And by the afternoon, a university had already sent the acceptance letter. The efficiency of top universities was impressive. While everyone eagerly awaited to see what the letter looked like, I was just curious to see how many copies it had. Soon, had fulfilled my obsession. Neighbors gathered outside Eric's door. Some even bringing their children to join in the celebration. The acceptance letter's here. From B-Town. C Village. Before the postman could finish, Kathy snatched the letter away. It's definitely for my son. He got direct admission. So it came early. The rest of them only just got their results today. So they won't send out letters so quickly. The postman was confused. Son? But I thought this was a woman's name. Kathy flipped to the back of the letter, where Wendy was clearly written. This is ridiculous. The admissions office can't possibly mix up the names of the neighbors with my son's. I casually walked downstairs. Auntie, Hattie, this is mine. I showed her the acceptance letter as I took back what belonged to me. Is there only one letter? Yes. I won. The crowd erupted into cheers. Our village has a girl who got into a prestigious university. My dad stared at the letter in disbelief, then said with pride, Daughter, I've always known you've been working hard. No matter where you got into. I just want you to be healthy and safe. Now that you've got into a prestigious university, I'm so happy and proud of you. Kathy stormed into the house and kicked open Eric's door. Eric, having fulfilled my obsession. Why hasn't your acceptance letter arrived yet? Did the admissions office make a mistake? The relatives are still waiting outside to see. I'm going to lose face. Eric sat slumped at his desk, absent-minded, not saying a word. Kathy was frantic, almost losing her mind, and immediately called the class teacher. Hello, teacher. My son Eric got direct admission. But he hasn't received his acceptance letter yet. What should we do? Should we contact the admissions office? On the other end of the line, the teacher was puzzled. Eric hasn't confirmed his enrollment in person? Don't you know? I thought he wanted to apply to a better university. Wasn't this a decision you both made together? Before Kathy could hang up, her phone dropped to the floor. She turned around, her gaze sweeping over the computer on the desk. On the screen, in bold letters. It clearly said, no admission result. Eric had missed out. Kathy collapsed to the floor. Her face twisted in disbelief. Eric, since when did you learn to lie to your mother? Eric snapped back to reality, his head hanging low as his voice trembled. Mom. I was late on the confirmation day. That's why. Kathy bit down hard on her lip, tears welling in her eyes. You ungrateful brat. I've been waking up before dawn every day, selling fruit just to pay your tuition at the best school in the city. I've never even been on a plane. But I bought you an expensive ticket, and this is how you repay me? Even the girl next door scored higher than you. You brought shame to our whole family. Eric fell to his knees, crying out over and over, his voice breaking. Mom. I took the college entrance exam afterward. I thought I'd definitely make it. That's why I didn't tell you the truth. I got sick during the test. I didn't perform well. Please. Let me repeat another year. I promise I'll make you proud. At this point, there was no choice but to let him retake the year. Outside, a crowd of curious neighbors had gathered at the door, all admiring the beautiful admission notice from a university. Seeing the scene, Sharon assumed Eric had made it in. Overjoyed, she turned around to buy a bouquet of flowers, only to come back and find me holding the university admission letter, posing for a photo. Even the smell of stir-fry wafting from the neighboring kitchen couldn't overpower the sour jealousy in the air. Hey, Wendy. Sharon snapped, her voice rising. Why are you taking pictures with my boyfriend's admission letter? Did he even give you permission? Flustered and angry, Sharon snatched the notice from my hands. Her pale cheeks flushed pink. At the very least, I should be the first one to do that as his official girlfriend. The onlookers began to murmur. What's wrong with this pretty girl? Snatching someone else's admission letter like that. I replied evenly. Hello there. I didn't expect we'd end up as schoolmates. Sharon froze, staring at me in disbelief as her face turned crimson with fury. She stormed into Eric's house, only to find chaos inside. Mother and son both red-eyed, the air heavy with tension. She immediately understood. I guess this isn't the best time to visit. She. Eric rushed after her, but was stopped by the crowd outside. Eric, why haven't you gotten your admission letter yet? I was waiting to take a picture with it for my moment's boast. Eric, your mom works so hard for you every day, don't you go breaking her heart or lying to her? Eric. 100 voices buzzed around him, filling his head until it nearly exploded. In a sudden fit of rage, he lunged at me like a mad dog. Wendy, did you cheat? Did you switch exam papers with me? With your grades? This is impossible. You couldn't stand me being with Sharon, so you did this to get revenge. Didn't you? I looked at him with quiet exasperation. Is it really that hard to admit someone else might just be better than you? The next second, his hands were around my throat. You're so jealous you'll do anything, won't you? You can't stand seeing me and Sharon together, so you'll destroy us by any means necessary. Luckily, having fulfilled my absorption, the crowd pulled him away before he could tighten his grip. Our families had been neighbors for over a decade, and though I wasn't injured, my father, indignant on my behalf, chose not to press charges. But from that day on, Eric's family lost their good name. I hadn't done a thing in this life, yet somehow, I still became the target of his rage. I thought I understood him, but I hadn't realized just how deep his violent streak ran. And now he was only 17. The next morning, Eric went to find Sharon. She. I'm sorry. I was impulsive before I embarrassed you. Sharon raised an eyebrow, then smiled sweetly, leaning close to whisper in his ear. It's fine. You'll always be my boyfriend, the one completely bewitched by me. She pulled him over to the computer. Look, I'm a relationship blogger now. So many people are touched by our love story. I'm going to be famous soon. Can you believe it? Her eyes sparkled with pride. Eric leaned in to read her latest post. Childhood sweetheart loses to the new girl, a genius's love strategy. The names weren't real, but anyone who knew us could tell. The childhood sweetheart was me. Eric burst out laughing. You're so good at this, it's just like Wendy. Sharon giggled and threw herself into his arms. No matter how good Wendy is, she's still a pitiful girl no man will ever love. She's already lost. In just 3 days, the post went viral, tens of thousands of likes and shares. Soon, people in the comments even started tagging me by name. When she couldn't beat me in grades, she turned to online smear campaigns, painting me as some pathetic lovesick fool. Eric, you really overestimate your own importance. And Sharon, you really overestimate your taste in men. The next morning, I woke up to find my notifications flooded. A quick glance at the trending list showed the top headline. Rejected student assaults a university candidate. The video of Eric choking me was all over the internet. Right beneath it was Sharon's infamous post. And just like that, the tide of public opinion turned against them. So this is the genius she's been gushing about? What a disgrace. He didn't even get into university, what's he pretending for? With a guy like that, I'm unfollowing this blogger immediately. As the online world devoured the scandal, I couldn't help wondering, who uploaded that video? Outside my house, Eric was shouting like a maniac. Wendy, you crazy woman, get out here. I didn't think you could be this vicious. I walked down the stairs unhurriedly and opened the door. I have no reason to waste my time playing internet games with someone like you. If I had that kind of time, I'd rather get some sleep. Eric grabbed my collar and hissed, if it wasn't you, then who else could it be? Before I could reply, a thunderous voice came from behind him. What are you doing to my daughter? I'm the one who uploaded it. My father had just returned from the market, fury blazing in his eyes. Your mom's shop kept getting robbed these past few months. She didn't know how to install cameras, so I did it myself, connected straight to my phone. The last time you bullied my daughter, I let it go out of neighborly goodwill. But now you're spreading rumors and harassing her online? You think I'm too old to use the internet? Want me to upload what just happened too? Eric's legs went weak. In his mind, our family had always been the quiet, gentle type, easy to push around. Uncle Wendy. Please. Let me explain. Even I had never seen my father so angry before. In my previous life, for the sake of being with Eric, I gave up a top university close to home and went to a second-tier school in a city instead. After that, my entire world revolved around him. And I rarely came home. Now, tears filled my eyes. At least in this life, I had finally become my father's pride. My time, my life, belonged to me. And to those who truly loved me. Never again to trash like Eric. Sharon's relationship with Eric was soon discovered by Sharon's father. He sat on the sofa, took a drag from his cigarette, and said with a serious tone, "He's not a bad guy. But you're a high achiever. And being with him is like throwing your future away. I know I've been busy with work and haven't had much time to guide you. But I'm clear on one thing, my daughter is a smart girl." Not long after, Sharon made a public apology and deactivated her social media account. Days passed, and the whole debacle slowly faded from people's memories. Life returning to normal. Of course, Sharon never contacted Eric again. Despite Eric's many attempts to call, the only response he ever got was the cold, automated message. "Hello. The person you are calling is currently on another call. Please try again later." From that point on, Eric fell into a deep decline. Unable to afford a private tutor, he had to prepare for the exam on his own at home. No friends. No social life. Although he was technically preparing for the exam, he would often procrastinate. The once proud, energetic young man slowly lost his vitality. Worries and anxiety overtook his entire heart. Before school started, he asked to meet me once. The place was the park where we used to play as children. He looked much more haggard now. "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Just quietly looked around at the park. After a long pause, he spoke again. "I feel like I've lost something really important." I slowly turned to face him. And our eyes met. His gaze intense. "Yes, Hetty too. You lost yourself." He was about to say something, but I spoke before him. "All right. It's time to go back and pack my things. I'm leaving for a city tomorrow." Eric walked back and forth alone in the park for a long time. Eventually, he stopped in front of a bench. His figure stretched long by the street lamp. The day after the start of school, a university hit the trending news. A university female student murdered on campus. Through online forums and alumni groups, I learned that the victim was Sharon. And she was killed, strangled to death. When I called my family and found out that Eric was missing, my suspicions were confirmed. Not long after, the police pulled Eric's body from the river in the town park, the dairy park where I had last seen him. Eric had, in the end, treated the person he claimed to love most the same way he had treated me in my past life. I didn't dig too deeply into the details of what had happened. I only heard that Kathy fell seriously ill after she found out. Eric from my previous life could never have imagined that this whole fiasco over the directed mission would cost him not only his future, but his life as well. At a university's opening ceremony, I was called up as the freshman representative. As I looked out at the sea of bright, eager faces in the audience, and the pairs of eyes filled with hope for the future, I thought back to the me in my past life, who had only eyes for Eric. That's all in the past. The life I've always dreamed of has only just begun. In the summer of 1980, the incessant sound of cicadas filled the courtyard of the regiment compound. Yet Serafini opened her eyes in the infirmary. A few people in white coats were gathered around her, whispering among themselves. "This time, her condition is worse than before. We recommend sending her to the mental hospital." A mental hospital? I sat up abruptly, my head throbbing as if struck by lightning. Memories surged and like a tidal wave it died. In my past life, she had conspired with my mother-in-law, claiming I suffered from postpartum depression, which gradually developed into schizophrenia. My husband, Jasper, believed them and had me committed to a psychiatric hospital. It was only when I was about to die that I discovered Mara was pregnant with Jasper's child. As a legitimate military wife, I was driven to madness and death by their lies. Serafini, you're awake? Mara asked with feigned concern, her false smile making me nauseous. I glanced at the watch on my wrist, July 15, 1980, 200 p.m. At this time, there were still 3 months before I would be sent to the mental institution. I'm fine, I replied calmly, getting up from the bed and adjusting my clothes. Serafini, you had another episode just now. You were shouting in the courtyard, saying someone was trying to harm you. Mara feigned worry. I suggest you stay in the hospital for a few more days. Stay in the hospital? In my past life, it was exactly this kind of step-by-step manipulation that dragged me deeper into the abyss. I said I'm fine. I locked eyes with her. By the way, how far along are you? Pregnant, right? Mara's face turned pale in an instant. You? What are you talking about? What am I talking about? I sneered. Do you think a loose white coat can hide your belly? You instinctively hold your waist when you walk, and your voice is softer than before. These are classic signs of pregnancy. In my past life, I had worked as an obstetric nurse, and these symptoms were unmistakable. Back then, I was too naive, too trusting of the people around me. Mara stammered, trying to explain. Serafini, you're really sick. You're starting to imagine things. Really? I interrupted her. Then why don't we go talk to my husband and get some answers? Mara's face drained of all color. She knew that once Jasper found out about her pregnancy, everything would be exposed. Just then, why not a low sigh? Jasper entered the room. He was tall, with thick eyebrows and large eyes, dressed in a sharp military uniform, exactly the man I had once loved deeply. Serafini, I heard you had another episode? His frown deepened, his tone laced with impatience. In my past life, hearing this, I would have explained myself, insisting I wasn't sick. But this time, I simply stared coldly at them both. Jasper, I have a question for you, I said, walking up to him. If I really were mentally ill, what would you do? Jasper was taken aback. Of course. I'd treat you. You're my wife. And if it can't be treated? I pressed on. Well, Jasper looked at Mara. We'll try to treat it first. See? He couldn't even say the words. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. This was the man I once entrusted my future to. All right. I understand. I nodded. Now, I'm going home. Serafini, you really don't need to. Mara began, but I cut her off. I said, I'm fine. I turned on my heel. And from now on, please call me Mrs. Jasper. We're not that close. With that, I walked out of the infirmary, leaving their whispers behind me. But I no longer cared. This time, I would never be the weak, pitiful Serafini again. At home, my mother-in-law Eloane was sitting in the living room, chatting with a few other military wives. When they saw me walk in, their conversation abruptly stopped. Serafini, you're back? How are you feeling? Eloane asked with a surface-level concern, though a flicker of disappointment flashed in her eyes. She must have hoped I'd be sent straight to the mental hospital. I'm fine. Thank you for asking, I replied inferiorly. That's good. That's good. Eloane gave a forced smile. You should go rest in your room. I have things to discuss with the other wives. All right. I turned to leave, but I could hear their hushed voices behind me. Does Jasper's wife really have a mental illness? I heard she was shouting in the courtyard again today. Poor Jasper. Such a good man. Stuck with a wife like her. I clenched my fists. In my past life, it was these idle rumors that slowly destroyed my reputation and dignity. This time, I would make those who harmed me pay. I locked myself in my bedroom and retrieved a metal box from under the bed. Inside were all my savings and important documents. I had 3 months. I needed to gather enough evidence in this time to prove I wasn't mentally ill and expose Jasper and Mara's affair. Rebirth had given me a second chance, and I would not waste it. Late that night, as I lay in bed pretending to sleep, I reflected on all the details of my past life. Jasper and Mara's affair had begun 6 months ago. in the spring of 1980. At that time, I had just given birth to Eli and was still breastfeeding. With my figure severely out of shape, Mara, the new medic, was young and pretty, and quite skilled in her field. Jasper often went to the infirmary under the pretext of a checkup, and over time, they developed an affair. The most despicable part was that they had used my kindness and trust to trap me step by step. First, they drugged my tea with sleeping pills, making me drowsy during the day. Then, mud out a low sigh, they spread rumors that I had postpartum depression. Finally, they laced my medication with hallucinogens, making me show symptoms of hallucinations and incoherent speech. In the end, everyone believed I had truly lost my mind. Mara's pregnancy had begun 2 months ago, but she had done everything to hide it. According to the timeline of my past life, in another month, she would be accidentally pregnant and would demand a divorce on the grounds of an unwed pregnancy. I sneered. Since I had been reborn, I would rewrite this script. The next morning, I got up to make breakfast. Eloan was clearly surprised to see me in the kitchen. Serafini, you had another episode yesterday. You should rest more. Let me cook. No. Mom. I'm feeling great, I replied as I cooked porridge. By the way, where's Eli? He's still sleeping. Eloan gave me a wary look. You're not thinking of taking him, are you? What if your condition flares up? Mom, I'm not sick. I looked her straight in the eye. If you think I am, we can go to the city hospital for an examination. Eloan quickly avoided my gaze. We can't just check like that. What if something's wrong? Mom, do you hope I'm sick or that I'm not? I asked directly. Eloan fell silent. As my mother-in-law, she couldn't openly wish for her daughter-in-law to be mentally ill. At that moment, Jasper came downstairs. Seeing me cooking, he looked just as surprised. Serafini, why are you up so early? Let me make breakfast for you, I said, handing him a bowl of porridge. Taste it. See if the seasoning is right. Jasper took the bowl, sipped the porridge, and frowned slightly. It's a bit salty. In my past life, hearing those words, I would have immediately apologized and made a new bowl. But in this life, I calmly replied, Oh, then just drink less of it. Jasper was momentarily stunned, clearly not expecting this kind of response from me. Serafini, Mara mentioned yesterday that your condition might require systematic treatment, he said cautiously. She's not a psychiatrist. What qualifications does she have to diagnose me? I countered. If you really think I have a problem, we can go to the provincial mental hospital and consult an expert. Well, Jasper stuttered. Isn't it a bit too much of a hassle? Why is it too much? I looked at him directly. Do you want me to be mentally ill? This question left Jasper speechless. He couldn't exactly admit that he hoped his wife were mentally unstable, just so he could use it as an excuse for his affair. At that moment, the cry of a child came from upstairs. I immediately put down what I was doing and ran upstairs. Eli was lying in his crib, crying so hard that his face was red. As soon as he saw me, he reached out his little hands for a hug. The moment I picked him up, my tears almost fell. In my past life, I had stayed in the marriage for this child, only to end up hurting myself. Good boy. Mama's here. I softly patted his back, secretly vowing, this time, I would protect you no matter what. Jasper walked into the room and saw me holding the child, his expression complex. Serafini, your behavior yesterday was... He began. What was it? I turned to face him. Somewhat normal. Somewhat rational. Does that disappoint you? I didn't mean it like that. Then, what do you mean? I pressed, stepping closer. Jasper, we've been married for 3 years. What kind of person do you think I am? Jasper was left speechless by my question. He probably had never seriously thought about it before. To him, I was just a wife who could be discarded easily. A burden he could get rid of under the guise of mental illness. But what he didn't know was that this time, he was facing a woman reborn. A woman who would never again be a pushover. At 9 a.m., I took Eli to the small square in front of the military district compound. It was a gathering place for the military wives. And also the place where news spread the quickest. Sure enough, as soon as I appeared, several military wives immediately gathered around me. Serafini, what happened yesterday? I heard you had another episode? Liu, warada lo sai? The neighbor asked with a concerned tone. No episode. Just some things I couldn't make sense of. I replied infuriately. What couldn't you make sense of? Tell us. We can help you figure it out. Another military wife, Aunt Zheng, chimed in. I sighed on purpose. I always feel like someone's been badmouthing me behind my back. But I can't catch any proof. How could that be? Who would dare say bad things about you? Liu's eyes flickered. Maybe you're overthinking it. Maybe, I shrugged. By the way, has anyone noticed? Lately Mara's gained quite a bit of weight? As soon as I said that, the other wives became instantly interested. Gossip was in their blood. She really has put on weight. Especially around her stomach. Aunt Cheng nodded. Could it be she's pregnant? Liu whispered. But she's not married. Who knows with these young girls nowadays? Another military wife sneered. Pretty girls are more prone to making mistakes. I silently laughed to myself. The seed had already been planted. Now we just had to wait for it to sprout. At that moment, Mara walked out of the clinic. Seeing us chatting, she approached us. Hello, everyone. Serafini, how are you feeling today? She asked, her tone filled with concern. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. I responded politely, then deliberately scrutinized her figure. Mara, have you gained some weight recently? Her expression shifted slightly. Maybe I've been eating well recently. Yeah. You look good. I smiled. By the way, have you gone for a gynecological checkup? Women need to get regular checkups. Checkup? What kind of checkup? Mara clearly became nervous. Of course. A gynecological checkup. I replied as if it were the most natural thing in the world. When I was a nurse, I often reminded my patients to get checked regularly. Mara forced a smile. I'm fine. No need for a checkup. It's even more important to get checked when you're healthy. Prevention is key. I pressed on. How about I go with you to the city hospital for a checkup? No. Really, hadn't fulfilled wide sesh. There's no need. Mara quickly waved her hands, looking for an excuse to leave. As she hurried away, the other military wives exchanged glances, a knowing look passing between them. That afternoon, as I was cleaning up at home, I found a small notebook. It was my diary from my past life, where I had meticulously recorded the dates and symptoms of each episode. Flipping through the entries, I noticed a pattern. Every time I had an episode, I had visited the clinic. Either Mara had told me my complexion looked bad and suggested I get checked, or Eloan had said my mental state wasn't good and recommended I see a doctor. And every time I went to the clinic, Mara would prescribe me some nutritional or sedative pills. Looking back, I realized those pills must have been tampered with. I thought carefully about the details of my past life, and suddenly remembered something important. Next month, there would be a physical exam organized by the group, and all the military wives had to attend. If Mara really was pregnant, that physical exam would be her end. Unless she figured out a way to avoid it. Sure enough, the next morning, Mara came to find me. Serafini, I'd like to discuss something with you, she said, sitting in my living room, looking somewhat uncomfortable. What is it? I feigned ignorance. I'd like to take a leave of absence from the physical exam next month, she said carefully. I've been feeling unwell recently. Unwell? Where do you feel unwell? I asked with concern. Should I go with you to the hospital? No, Darbisahirza. It's just a bit of stomach discomfort. Probably from the stress at work, Mara quickly explained. Stomach discomfort means you should definitely get checked, I said, sounding concerned. What if it's an ulcer or something more serious? It's better to find out early. Mara's face grew paler. It's really not necessary. I can manage it on my own. Mara, you're a medical professional. You should know how important regular checkups are, I said earnestly. Besides, it's an order from the organization. How can you just skip it? Mara was left speechless by my words. Indeed. As a military doctor, it was unreasonable to refuse a medical checkup without cause. How about this? I suddenly suggested. I'll go with you to speak to the regimental commander and explain your situation. Maybe we can work something out. No need. Mara hurriedly waved her hand. I'll think of another way. Watching her flustered departure, I knew she was already starting to panic. The advantage of being reborn is knowing everyone's cards. In this game, I was destined to be the winner. That evening, Jasper returned home, looking a bit preoccupied. I pretended not to notice, continuing to change Eli's diaper. Serafini, I need to talk to you. He sat down on the edge of the bed, hesitating for a long time before speaking. What is it? I asked, not looking up. About your condition, he said cautiously. I think you should undergo a proper treatment regimen. I paused in my actions, then turned to look at him. What condition do you think I have? Well, mental issues. Jasper avoided my gaze. Your behavior has been a bit strange lately. Where has it been strange? I locked eyes with him. Is it because I'm too rational? Or too clear-headed? Jasper was caught off guard. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? I set the diaper down and walked toward him. Jasper, do you want me to be mad, or do you want me to be normal? He couldn't answer. If he said he wanted me to be mad, it would sound cold-hearted. If he said he wanted me to be normal, it didn't align with his true feelings. I want you to be normal. He finally settled on the safest answer. If you want me to be normal, then why would you want me to undergo treatment? I pressed. Does a normal person need treatment? Jasper fell silent, unable to respond. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Eloan's voice came through. Jasper. Someone's here to see you. Jasper looked as if he had been pardoned, immediately getting up to open the door. I followed behind and saw Mara standing at the entrance. Sorry to disturb you so late, Commander. Mara's face was pale, looking anxious. A patient's condition is critical, and we need your signature to approve transferring them to another hospital. So urgent? Jasper furrowed his brows. What patient? It's Serafini's lover. Mara fabricated smoothly. He has sudden acute appendicitis and needs to be transferred to the city for surgery immediately. I watched coldly from the side. In my past life, I would have been too drowsy from sleeping pills to notice such details. Now I realize they often use this excuse to meet in private. Go ahead. Then, what up? Eloan urged. The patient is a priority. Just as Jasper was about to leave with Mara, I spoke up. I'll go too. In case I can help. The three of them froze. Mara's face turned even paler. No. Serafini, haven't fulfilled my obsession. You stay home and look after the child. Eli has his grandmother to take care of him. I insisted. I'll go and see what I can do. I used to be a nurse. After all. But Mara tried to reject me. Let's go. The more help, the better. Jasper was reluctant, but couldn't refuse under the circumstances. The three of us headed to the infirmary. Mara turned on the lights. And the room was empty. There was no patient. Where's the patient? I asked, feigning ignorance. He's already been taken away. Mara stammered. I'll go get the transfer documents. She hurried toward the office at the back. I took the opportunity to glance around, noticing a small bed in the corner with a somewhat messy blanket. Jasper. What's this bed used for? I pointed at the bed. It's for staff rest during shifts. Jasper replied. But his eyes shifted uncomfortably. Oh, does Mara often work here on shifts? I asked. Sometimes. His answers grew shorter. At that moment, Mara returned from the office, holding a patient's file. But I noticed her hair was messy, and her clothes were disheveled. I've handled the documents, she said hurriedly. We can leave now. Let me see the file. I reached out to take it. No need. Serafini. You wouldn't understand. Mara instinctively pulled the file back. Why wouldn't I understand? I used to be a nurse. I insisted. With no other choice. Mara reluctantly handed me the file. I carefully looked at the document. And to my surprise, The date on it was 3 days ago. And the patient wasn't Serafini's lover at all, it was an elderly man. Mara. This file is wrong. I raised the file. The patient is over 60. How can this be Serafini's lover? Mara's face went ashen. I picked up the wrong file. Picked up the wrong file? I sneered. Then where's the correct one? I'll go find it. Mara said, panic rising in her voice as she rushed back into the office. I turned to Jasper, whose face had also darkened. Clearly, hadn't still weighed sigh. Their lies had been exposed. Jasper, do you think my behavior right now is normal? I asked calmly. Jasper stammered, unable to speak. I think it's perfectly normal. I answered for him. A normal person, when encountering something unreasonable, would question it. That's called being rational, not being mentally ill. Just then, let out a low sigh. Mara came back from the office. Her hands empty. Did you find it? I asked. No. I couldn't find it. Maybe I left it on the ambulance. She lied, the story becoming more and more absurd. Let's go to the ambulance and look for it, I suggested. Forget it. It's too late. Jasper quickly intervened, trying to smooth things over. Let's go home. On the way back, none of us spoke. I knew that tonight's little performance had completely failed their plan. More importantly, I had used my reason and composure to prove that I wasn't mentally ill. When we got home, Jasper immediately went to his study and never mentioned treatment again. Looking at his retreating figure, I sneered. The game had only just begun. The next day was the weekend, and I decided to take the initiative. Early in the morning, I took Eli and went to visit the neighbor, Serafini. Serafini was kind-hearted and well-informed, always in the know about things in the compound. She seemed surprised to see me. Serafini, what brings you here? How's your health lately? She warmly invited me to sit down. I'm fine. Why do you ask? I feigned confusion. Serafini hesitated. I heard you've been feeling unwell lately. Who said that? I pressed. Well, people are saying you might have postpartum depression. Serafini said cautiously. Postpartum depression? I pretended to be surprised. Which doctor made that diagnosis? I think it was Mara. Serafini replied. She's not an obstetrician. What qualifications does she have to diagnose postpartum depression? I scoffed. Serafini, do you think that if someone deliberately spreads rumors about me having a mental illness, they might have ulterior motives? Serafini froze. What do you mean? What I mean is, some people might want my position as the wife of the commander, I said, with a meaningful look. As soon as I spoke, Serafini's eyes immediately lit up. She was always eager to hear gossip like this. Serafini, do you have any evidence? She asked, lowering her voice. The evidence is being collected. I smiled mysteriously. But I can tell you a secret. If you promise not to spread it. I promise. I promise. Serafini nodded eagerly. Mara's pregnant. I dropped the bombshell without hesitation. Serafini's eyes widened. Pregnant? But she's not even married. Yes, without a sigh. She's pregnant without being married. I sighed. What do you think of someone like that? Who's the father? Serafini asked urgently. I can't say. I teased her. But think about it. If an unmarried woman gets pregnant and wants to have the child legitimately, what does she have to do? Serafini, being as sharp as ever, immediately picked up on my hint. You mean, she wants to ruin someone else's marriage? I didn't say that. I shook my head. I just think some people's motives for spreading rumors about me having a mental illness are worth questioning. Serafini was completely stunned by what I said, though she had promised to keep it to herself. I knew that it wouldn't be long before this news spread throughout the whole compound. Sure enough, within 2 hours, I had received several phone calls from the military wives, all subtly probing about Mara's situation. That afternoon, when Lon returned home, her face was grim. Serafini, did you say something out there today? She interrogated me. What did I say? I feigned innocence. About Mara. Lon lowered her voice. Now the whole compound is saying she's pregnant. Isn't pregnancy a good thing? I countered. Why are you whispering? She's not married. Elowen snapped. That's all the more reason to care. I replied as if it were obvious. A girl getting pregnant out of wedlock is tragic. We should help her find the father of the child and make him take responsibility. Elowen was momentarily speechless. She couldn't exactly say that she hoped Mara would be the other woman. At that moment, Jasper walked in. His face a thundercloud. Serafini, did you spread the rumor about Mara being pregnant today? He demanded. I'm just telling the truth, I answered calmly. She is pregnant. What's wrong with saying that? How do you know she's pregnant? Jasper pressed. I'm a nurse. I retorted. It's not hard to tell if a woman is pregnant. But tell me, why are you so nervous? Jasper was left dumbfounded. He couldn't very well admit that he knew Mara was pregnant. Jasper, let me ask you something. I looked into his eyes. If an unmarried woman gets pregnant, what should she do? Well, it depends on the situation. Jasper stammered. What situation? I pressed further. Should she find the father and marry him? Or should she destroy someone else's marriage? Jasper's face went pale. He knew exactly what I was alluding to. Serafini, don't overthink things. He tried to change the subject. I'm not overthinking. I stood up. My voice firm. But just think. As the commander, you should be looking into the morality of your subordinates. What kind of image does it give the army if a medical staff member is pregnant out of wedlock? Jasper had no answer. From the perspective of organizational discipline, Mara's actions were indeed a problem. I'll handle it. He finally muttered. How will you handle it? I pressed relentlessly. Are you going to help her find the father? Or are you going to kick her out of the army? Jasper fell silent again. No matter what he said, it was a trap. Seeing his anguished expression, a wave of satisfaction surged within me. The pain from my past life would be repaid double in this one. The next morning, as I was tidying up at home, I suddenly heard shouting outside. Looking out the window, I saw Mara confronting a few of the military wives in the compound. Why are you saying I'm pregnant? Do you have any proof? Mara's voice was sharp, clearly pushed to the edge. You know the truth yourself. Elio, one of the military wives, sneered. Everyone in the compound can see it. And yet you're still pretending. I'm not pregnant. Mara denied loudly. You're slandering me. Not being pregnant is even better. Aunt Shane chimed in. Then how about going to the hospital for a checkup? As soon as she said that, Mara's face turned pale. I knew it was time to step in. I took Eli in my arms and walked out to the scene of the commotion. What's going on? Why are you arguing? I asked, pretending not to know. Serafini, you came at the right time. You immediately grabbed me. You're a nurse. Come check if Mara is pregnant. All eyes turned to me. Mara was now nervously staring at me. Fear and anger in her eyes. This might not be appropriate. I hesitated. Without proper equipment, how can I judge something like that? Serafini is right, Mara said, almost relieved. You can't just say someone is pregnant without a test. That's slander. Then let's go to the hospital for a checkup, Aunt Jom suggested. It's Monday, and the hospital has staff on duty. Why should I go for a checkup? Mara refused. I'm fine. I don't need it. Afraid of what? Liu sneered. Why would someone who's innocent be afraid of a checkup? Seeing Mara cornered, I stepped in at the perfect moment. Actually, even without going to the hospital, there are some simple ways to tell. What ways? Several of the military wives immediately asked. Like looking at her complexion, her posture, changes in her eating habits, and so on. I said, eyeing Mara carefully. But none of these are absolutely accurate. Then what do you think of Mara? Liu pressed. I observed Mara carefully, then shook my head. It's hard to judge just by appearance. The most accurate method is a medical examination. Then let's go to the hospital for a checkup, Sister Zhang insisted. I won't go. Mara's emotions flared up. You have no right to force me to get checked. No one's forcing you, I said calmly. But if you're truly innocent, why are you so afraid to prove it? Mara fell silent at that question. Indeed, Innocent people typically wouldn't hesitate to prove their innocence. At that moment, Jasper hurried over. When he saw the scene, his expression turned dark. "What's going on?" he asked. "Commander. They say I'm pregnant and are forcing me to get checked at the hospital." Mara immediately pleaded for help, her eyes welling up with tears. Jasper glanced around at the other military wives. Then at me, his expression complex. "Everyone, please disperse. No need to stand around." He tried to calm the situation. "Commander. This can't just be brushed off." "Sisto, you pressed. If Mara is really pregnant, who's the father? This concerns the reputation of the entire unit." Jasper's face grew even more uncomfortable. He couldn't say it didn't concern the unit, could he? "Yes, couldn't fulfilled my obsession. Commander." Sister Zhang also chimed in. "If there's someone in the unit messing around with relationships, as the leader, you should step in, shouldn't you?" Jasper was backed into a corner. He could only say, "If there is such an issue, I will handle it seriously. But right now, there's no concrete evidence." "Then let's get the checkup," the military wives said in unison. Jasper looked at Mara, a flicker of conflicting emotions passing through his eyes. I knew. At this moment, he was caught in a dilemma. Supporting the checkup meant pushing Mara into the abyss. Opposing it would raise even more suspicions. "Mara. You decide." He finally shifted the responsibility. Mara's eyes flashed with despair. She knew then that Jasper had given up on protecting her. I'll go for the checkup," she gritted her teeth. "But if the results come back and I'm not pregnant, all of you will have to apologize to me." "Fine. No problem." Sister Liu immediately agreed. "If you're not pregnant, I'll be the first to apologize." The other military wives also voiced their agreement. Watching this scene, I couldn't help but smirk inwardly. Mara was making a last-ditch effort. She probably wanted to use the hospital visit to find an opportunity to deal with the child in her belly. But little did she know, I had already made preparations. "Let's all go together," I suggested. "The more of us, the fairer it will seem." "Yes, let's go together." Several military wives immediately responded. Mara's face turned even paler. She knew that with so many people accompanying her to the hospital, she would have no room to maneuver. But now, there was no turning back. The 8 of us arrived in full force at the city's People's Hospital. Along the way, having fulfilled my obsession, Mara remained silent, her face pale as a sheet. At the hospital, I took the initiative to approach the registration desk. "Excuse me, is there a gynecologist on duty today?" "Yes, why doubt will say. The gynecology department is on the 3rd floor. And drive. Eloan is on duty," the nurse answered enthusiastically. "How long does the pregnancy test take?" I asked. "If it's a urine test, the results will be out in half an hour. If it's a blood test, it takes about 2 hours." The nurse explained in detail. "Let's go with the urine test then." I turned to consult the others. "Sure." Several military wives nodded. Only Mara stood still, her face growing even darker. At the gynecology clinic, Dr. Eloan, a woman in her 40s with a professional air, asked, "What kind of checkup are you here for?" "Pregnancy check." I replied on Mara's behalf. "Which one of you is the patient?" Dr. Eloan asked, looking at our group. "It's her." I pointed to Mara. Dr. Eloan had Mara sit down and began asking basic questions. "When was your last menstrual period?" Mara hesitated and couldn't answer. She couldn't exactly say she hadn't had a period because she was already 2 months pregnant. "Probably a little over a month ago," she forced out an answer. "Any nausea or vomiting symptoms?" Dr. Eloan continued. "Yes. A little. Mara hesitated, unable to lie because these symptoms were something everyone could observe. "Do your breasts feel swollen or tender?" "Yes." Mara's voice grew softer. After finishing the basic questions, Dr. Eloan sent Mara to the lab for a urine test. We all followed her to the lab. The lab technician took the urine sample and started the test. Throughout the process, Mara nervously rubbed her hands, beads of sweat rolling down her forehead. Half an hour later, the test results came in. The technician handed the report to Eloan, who took a quick glance at it before looking at Mara. The test results show that you are indeed pregnant. Approximately 6 to 8 weeks along. Dr. Eloan announced. At this, everyone fell silent. Several military wives exchanged glances. And Mara collapsed into the chair. 6 to 8 weeks. I repeated loudly. So that's about 1.5 to 2 months. Mara. Congratulations. Mara lifted her head to look at me. Her eyes filled with resentment and despair. Who's the father of the child? Sister Liu asked directly. I can't say. Mara's voice trembled. Why can't you say? Sister Zhang pressed. Is it that the man doesn't want to take responsibility? Mara closed her eyes in pain and remained silent. If that's the case, you can protect your rights through legal means. Dr. Eloan kindly suggested. The country has clear laws about this now. No need. Thank you. Doctor. Mara stood up and hurriedly walked out. We all followed her out of the hospital. On the way back, no one spoke, the atmosphere thick with tension. By the time we returned to the compound, news of Mara's unwed pregnancy had spread like wildfire. Within an hour, everyone in the compound knew about it. In the afternoon, Jasper came to find me. His face ashen. Serafini, was today's event something you deliberately arranged? He interrogated. What did I arrange? I countered. Am I the one who made her pregnant? You knew this would be the result. Yet you still brought so many people to the hospital. Jasper said angrily. How would I know the result? I feigned innocence. I can't predict the future. You're a nurse. You must have known already. Jasper accused. Even if I did know. So what? I sneered. Should I have helped her hide it? Jasper was left speechless. Unable to respond. Jasper. Let me ask you something. I said. Looking into his eyes. Who is the father of the child in Mara's belly? Jasper's face went pale. And he opened his mouth but couldn't find the words. Afraid to answer? I pressed, my voice cold. Or is it that you already know the answer? I wouldn't know. Jasper managed to force out. His voice shaky. Is that so? I sneered. Then why are you so nervous about this? A woman who has nothing to do with you is pregnant, so why do you care? Jasper was clearly struggling to handle my questions. And without another word, he turned and started to leave. Stop. I called out. My voice firm. The things between us will be settled one day. At the sound of my words, Jasper's body visibly trembled. But he didn't turn around. He just walked straight out of the room. I knew that he had begun to fear me. And this? This was only the beginning of my revenge. That night, I pretended to sleep, but I was actually observing Jasper's movements. Sure enough, around midnight, he quietly slipped out of the room. I followed him quietly, and saw him heading straight for the health clinic. Under the hazy moonlight, I saw the faint glow of a light inside. I crept closer to the window, peeking through the crack. Inside, Jasper and Mara were having a heated argument. Why are you so stupid? Why did you go for the checkup? Jasper hissed, his voice low with frustration. What could I do? They forced me to go. If I didn't, it would look suspicious. Mara cried out, her voice full of helplessness. What now? The whole compound knows about it. Jasper muttered, pacing around the room, clearly agitated. Why don't we run away together? Mara grasped his hand desperately. It's already out in the open. Run away? Jasper pulled his hand away from hers. His voice sharp. Do you know what the consequences would be if I did? Military law. A dishonorable discharge. My life would be over. So you want me to bear all the consequences alone? Mara shot back angrily. I didn't say that. But this is really complicated, Jasper responded with a sigh. Complicated? Mara laughed bitterly. When you said you loved me, you didn't mention any complications. Now that something's gone wrong, suddenly it's all complicated? Mara, calm down. Jasper tried to soothe her. But she wasn't having it. Let's think of another way. Another way? Mara sneered. Unless you divorce Serafini, there's no way we can be together properly. Divorce. This. Jasper hesitated, the words catching in his throat. What? You can't bear it? Mara mocked, still unwilling to give up her status. It's not that. Jasper tried to explain. You've seen how Serafini has been acting recently. She doesn't seem to have a mental illness. So what? Mara snarled. If she doesn't have a mental illness, then we'll make her have one. I felt a shudder run through me as I heard that. They were planning to use the same old trick again. How do we make her have a mental illness? Jasper asked, his voice tense. Use the old method. Mara said with a sinister smile. Just put something in her medicine. As long as the dosage is high enough, we can make her show clear signs of mental illness. This is too dangerous. Jasper hesitated, clearly torn. What danger? Mara dismissed his concern. She's bound to go crazy eventually anyway. We're just speeding things up, but right now she's very cautious. She won't take the medicine you prescribe, Jasper pointed out. Then put it in her food, Mara suggested with a sly grin. You eat with her every day, right? Just find an opportunity to slip the powder into her bowl. Jasper still hesitated. Do you love me or not? Mara pushed, using guilt to manipulate him. If you love me, you have to take responsibility for our future. Jasper finally relented. All right. I'll try. Then it's settled, Mara said with a satisfied smile. Once she's really gone crazy, you can divorce her for real and marry me. By then, I had heard enough. I slipped back into the room quietly, my heart burning with rage. In my past life, this was how they had pushed me step by step into the abyss. This time, I would never let their scheme succeed. The next morning, I got up early and made breakfast for the whole family. Jasper's eyes flashed with a complicated emotion when he saw what I was doing. Serafini, why are you suddenly being so diligent? Eloan asked, puzzled. Nothing. Just wanted to make something good for the family. I smiled, answering casually. Jasper's been working so hard, he should replenish his strength. Jasper's expression flickered with guilt at my words. But I knew that guilt would soon be buried by his selfish desires. During breakfast, I noticed Jasper trying to reach for my bowl several times. But I cleverly avoided it each time. Seeing his nervousness, I couldn't help but smile inwardly. Jasper, why are you so distracted? I asked deliberately. No, it's just that there's a lot of work on my mind, he quickly explained, trying to cover up. Is it because of Mara? I went straight to the point. Jasper nearly choked on his porridge. What Mara's business? Her pregnancy, I said nonchalantly. As your superior, shouldn't you be dealing with this? The organization will handle it, Jasper stammered, clearly trying to avoid the issue. How will they handle it? I pressed. Are they going to kick her out of the army? Or will her boyfriend take responsibility? Jasper was at a loss for words. He couldn't very well say that the organization planned to cover up such matters. Serafini, you really don't need to worry about this, Eloan interrupted, trying to diffuse the tension. As women, we should just focus on our own business. I'm concerned about the image of the army, I said sternly. A female doctor who's pregnant out of wedlock, what kind of impact does that have on the army's reputation? Eloan couldn't argue with that. From a moral standpoint, Mara's actions were indeed problematic. After breakfast, Jasper hurried off to work. I knew he was going to meet with Mara to discuss their next move. But what they didn't know was that I had already prepared a massive trap for them. At 10 I took Eli and headed to the office building at the regiment. The gatekeeper saw me and immediately stood up to salute. Good morning, Madam Commander, he said warmly. Are you looking for the commander? Yes. Is he in his office? I asked. Yes, hello. You can go right up, he replied. I made my way to Jasper's office on the second floor. Just as I was about to knock on the door, I heard voices coming from inside. I paused and listened carefully. Now the whole compound is talking about it, and it's causing quite a stir. I recognized the voice of the political commissar. Old Lee. Yes, Hadisofilmind Sasha. A pregnant and married doctor, what does that leave our army's reputation? Another voice. The vice commander, Old Jang, added. Jasper, as the leader responsible for this, what do you think? The political commissar asked for Jasper's opinion. There was a brief silence in the office. Then Jasper's voice came through. This situation certainly reflects badly. But it's complicated to handle. What's so complicated? The deputy commander said impatiently. According to military discipline. Just discharge her. And that's the end of it. The problem is, the father of the child hasn't been confirmed yet. Jasper said carefully. If it's someone within the unit, it would be even more serious. You mean the father of the child might be someone from our unit? The political commissar sharply picked up on the issue. It's hard to say. Jasper hesitated. Hard to say what? The deputy commander pressed. If you have a lead, speak up. If not, don't speculate. I think we should first investigate who the father of the child is. Then decide how to handle it. Jasper tried to buy some time. Investigate? How do we investigate? The political commissar asked. Are we supposed to have Mara say it herself? She definitely won't say. The deputy commander sneered. Women like her are the best at protecting their own interests. At this point, I decided to step in. I knocked on the door before pushing it open. Sorry to interrupt. Leaders, I said as I walked into the office holding Ely. The three of them looked at me, clearly uncomfortable. It was evident that the topic they had been discussing wasn't something they intended for me to overhear. Serafini, what brings you here? Jasper managed a forced smile. I came to bring you lunch, I said, raising the lunchbox. I knew you were in a meeting, so I made a few dishes. That's very kind of you. The political commissar said politely. It's no trouble, I replied, setting the lunchbox down. Then, let out a low sigh. Casually, I asked. I overheard you talking about Mara's situation earlier? The three of them exchanged glances but didn't answer. This really is quite surprising, I continued. A girl who looks so innocent. And yet she's pregnant out of wedlock. Yes, heading fulfilled my obsession. These young people have such open minds nowadays. The political commissar remarked with a sigh. The key thing is we don't know who the father is. I sighed dramatically. If it's someone from outside, it's easier to handle. But if it's someone inside the unit, that could be problematic. At my words, all three of their faces changed. Especially Jasper's, who turned pale as a ghost. Why do you say that? The deputy commander asked. Because I've observed Mara's behavior. I explained. She rarely goes out. Her main social circle is within the unit. And based on when she got pregnant, it must have been about 2 months ago. When exactly was that? The political commissar asked. Probably in May, I replied. That was when the unit had several important activities. And Mara was involved in medical support during that time. At my analysis, all three of them fell silent. They clearly understood the seriousness of the situation. If it's really someone inside, it must be dealt with seriously. The political commissar said solemnly. Yes, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. We can't turn a blind eye. The deputy commander agreed. Jasper sat there, growing more and more uncomfortable. I knew he was struggling internally. However, the most important thing now is to find out who the father is. I suggested. Perhaps we can find a way to get Mara to admit it voluntarily? How do you propose we make her speak? The political commissar asked. We could apply some indirect pressure, I suggested. For example, if she doesn't reveal the father's identity, we'll treat it as a violation of military discipline and expel her immediately. That's not a bad idea. The deputy commander nodded in approval. But what if she still refuses to speak? The political commissar asked with concern. Then that would make things clearer. I sneered. A normal woman. If she was truly deceived by an outside man, why would she be afraid to speak up? There's only one possibility: she's afraid to reveal the identity of the man because he holds a special position. At these words, all three of them fell deep into thought. Particularly the political commissar and deputy commander. Their eyes now filled with meaning as they looked at Jasper. I knew its seeds of suspicion had been sown. From here on, it would just take a little push, and the truth would come to light. That afternoon, I received an unexpected phone call at home. It was from Mara. Serafini, could you come out for a moment? I need to talk to you. Her voice sounded nervous. Why can't you talk over the phone? I asked. This matter is a bit complicated. It's better to talk face to face. Mara insisted. All right. Where do you want to meet? I agreed. Behind the compound. In the small forest. It's quieter there, Mara suggested. I knew exactly what she was up to. This was her final attempt. Trying to negotiate with me or threaten me into silence. Okay. I'll be there soon. I said. Hanging up. I quickly got ready. Then secretly attached a recording device to myself, something I'd bought specifically for collecting evidence. When I arrived at the small forest, Mara was already waiting. She looked haggard. Her eyes swollen from crying. Serafini, thank you for agreeing to meet me. She managed a faint smile. It's nothing. What's this about? I asked, getting straight to the point. Mara took a deep breath before speaking. I want to ask you for a favor. Can you please stop pursuing the matter of my pregnancy? Why should I stop? I pretended not to understand. This is your personal matter. It has nothing to do with me. But now everyone's talking about it. And my reputation is ruined. Mara cried. Her voice shaking. Your reputation was ruined by you. Not anyone else. I replied coldly. If you hadn't gotten pregnant out of wedlock, who could say anything about you? I know I was wrong. I really do. Mara kneeled before me, begging. Please. Let me off the hook. Seeing her kneel, I felt no emotional stir. In my past life, she had never been this polite with me. Where did you go wrong? I looked down at her from above. I shouldn't have gotten pregnant out of wedlock. I shouldn't have brought shame to the unit. Mara cried. And? I pressed further. And. Mara faltered, unable to finish. You shouldn't have seduced a married man, I said flatly. At those words, Mara visibly trembled. What are you talking about? I never seduced a married man. She denied. Really? I sneered. Then who's the father of the child? I can't say. Mara lowered her head. Why can't you say? Is it because the man is married, and his identity is special? I pressed. Mara was at a loss for words. Mara, I'm giving you a chance. I crouched down and looked her in the eyes. If you tell me the identity of the father, I might consider not pursuing this further. I really can't say. Mara cried even harder. Then it's Jasper. Isn't it? I said the name directly. When Mara heard this, her body shook violently. Her eyes filled with fear. How did you know? She finally admitted. I've known for a long time. I sneered. You thought you were playing it well, didn't you? Serafini, I beg you. Please don't tell anyone. Mara grasped my leg. If this comes out, Jasper's future is ruined. His future? I sneered. What about my future? My happiness? You. What do you mean? Mara asked, looking at me with confusion. Didn't you and Jasper always want me to go mad? I looked directly into her eyes. Drugs? Rumors? Psychological manipulation, everything you've used. Mara's face turned ashen at my words. You know everything? I don't just know, I have the evidence. I pulled a recording device from my pocket. Just now, you admitted the child was Jasper's. It's all been recorded. Seeing the recording device, Mara was completely defeated. She knew she had been exposed. Serafini, please. Delete the recording. We can talk. We can make a deal. Her voice was desperate. Make a deal? I scoffed. What makes you think you have the right to make demands? I'll leave the army. And never appear before you again. Mara offered. And then? I pressed. Then I'll get rid of the child. Sever all ties with Jasper. Mara gritted her teeth as she spoke. Upon hearing this, a surge of satisfaction filled my chest. This was the price of betrayal. It's too late. I stood up. The game is over. With that, I turned and walked out of the grove, leaving Mara alone, crying in despair. I knew the final showdown was drawing near. That night, I hid the recording device in my bedroom and then pretended to casually have dinner with Jasper. Jasper, Did you have a tiring day at work? I asked with feigned concern. It's fine. Just some annoying things to deal with. He replied absently. Is it because of Mara? I asked, testing the waters. At the mention of her name, Jasper visibly tensed. No. It's just work-related stuff. Oh, that's good. I nodded, casually adding. By the way, Mara came to see me this afternoon. What? Jasper nearly dropped his chopsticks. What did she want? She wanted me to stop pursuing the issue of her pregnancy, I said calmly. She also said she was willing to leave the army. And then? Jasper asked, now looking even more nervous. I thought her attitude was sincere. So I agreed not to pursue it anymore. I gave the answer that seemed to relieve Jasper's tension. That's good. That's good. Jasper seemed to relax a little. His tone lighter. After all, we're colleagues. So it's better to show some leniency. I couldn't help but laugh coldly inside at his hypocrisy. Wait until tonight. And you won't be so relaxed. After dinner, Jasper went to the study to handle work, while I played with Eli in the living room. Around 9 p. And I heard Jasper on the phone in the study. I quietly walked to the study door. And heard him speaking to Mara. Serafini has agreed not to pursue it anymore. You don't need to worry too much. Jasper's voice was lowered. Really? Mara's voice on the phone sounded relieved. Really? She told me herself. Jasper confirmed. That's great. I thought we were finished this time. Mara sighed with relief. But we still need to be careful. Jasper cautioned. We should avoid meeting for a while. I understand. We'll wait for the storm to pass. Mara agreed. By the way, what are you planning to do about the child? Jasper asked. I don't want to get rid of it. Mara answered resolutely. It's our child. I want to keep it. But with everything going on. Jasper hesitated. His voice filled with uncertainty. I don't care. I'm keeping it. Mara said passionately. Unless you divorce Serafini, I won't get rid of this child. Not even if it's the last thing I do. Divorce. That's not something that can be solved overnight. Jasper replied helplessly. Wait a little longer. Let me think of a way. I've waited long enough. Mara threatened. If you don't make up your mind, I'll go public with our relationship. Are you crazy? Jasper shouted, panic rising in his voice. That won't be good for anyone. Well, I've already gone this far. What's there to be afraid of? Mara was giving up completely. Either marry me, or we'll go down together. At that moment, I knew the time had come. I pushed open the study door and walked in. Jasper jumped, almost dropping the phone as he saw me. Jasper. Who were you talking to? I asked with a smile. It's nothing, Huntington failed. Just work stuff. Jasper stammered, hastily hanging up the phone. Work stuff? I walked up to him. Talking about work at this hour. That's some dedication. Yeah. Work's been busy lately. Jasper forced a smile. So, I heard you mention something about the child? I continued, deliberately probing. Jasper's face went pale instantly. Why you? What did you hear? I heard you and someone discussing the child. I took a step closer to him. Whose child is it? No. There's no child. Jasper denied quickly. Really? I pulled the recording device from my pocket. How do you explain this? I pressed play. And Mara's voice admitting the child was Jasper's came through loud and clear. Jasper collapsed into the chair. His face drained of color. He knew, without a doubt, that it was all over for him. Serafini. Listen. Let me explain. He tried to salvage the situation. Explain what? I sneered. Explain how you betrayed me? Or explain how you conspired with Mara to frame me? I didn't want to hurt you. Jasper tried to defend himself. You didn't want to hurt me? I shot back, furious. Then how do you explain putting hallucinogens in my medication? Or spreading rumors that I'm mentally ill? Jasper was speechless. He knew then that all his schemes had been exposed. Serafini. Please. Give me one more chance. He begged, falling to his knees. I'll sever ties with Mara and treat you and the child properly. Seeing this once proud man kneeling before me filled me with a deep satisfaction. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. It's too late, I said coldly. Tomorrow, I'll turn over all this evidence to the organization. At these words, Jasper's face crumbled in despair. He knew, without a doubt, that his military career was over. And this? This was just the first step in my revenge plan. The next morning, I took Ely and went straight to the political commissar's office. Commissar Lee was surprised to see me. Sarafini, you're here so early? He greeted me warmly, inviting me to sit. Commissar Lee, I have something important to report to the organization, I said seriously. Something important? Why so serious? Commissar Lee noticed the gravity of the situation. I pulled the recording device from my bag and placed it on the table. It's regarding Mara's pregnancy. I have some important evidence. The commissar's expression immediately turned serious. What evidence? I pressed play, and the recording of Mara admitting that Jasper was the father played clearly. After hearing the recording, the commissar's face turned ashen. Is this true? Absolutely, I answered confidently. And I have more evidence. What other evidence? The political commissar pressed. They not only had an improper relationship, but they also conspired to frame me. I continued, revealing more. They added hallucinogens to my medication, spread rumors that I had a mental illness, and tried to drive me insane. The political commissar was stunned into silence. The severity of the situation far exceeded his expectations. Do you have evidence of this? He asked cautiously. I have some drug residue samples that can be tested. I've prepared for this. And I also have a detailed record of every episode I experienced, I responded, handing him the materials. The political commissar took the documents from me and examined them carefully. After a moment, his face turned even darker. This is serious, he said gravely. If this is true, it's not just a moral issue, it's a criminal case. That's why I've come to report it to the organization, I said resolutely. As a military wife, I have a duty to uphold the discipline and reputation of the army. You've done the right thing. The political commissar nodded in approval. This kind of behavior that damages the reputation of the unit can't be tolerated. How will the organization handle it? I asked. I need to report to the higher-ups immediately and form an investigation team for a detailed inquiry, the political commissar said sternly. During the investigation, the person involved will be suspended from their duties. I understand, I nodded in support. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. The political commissar's secretary entered. Commissar, Jasper wants to see you. He says it's urgent. The political commissar glanced at me before speaking to the secretary. Let him in. Jasper entered the office. And when he saw me, his face immediately drained of color. He had clearly sensed something was amiss. Commissar, I need to report on Mara's situation, he said, forcing himself to speak. Actually, Sarafini is here to report the same issue, the political commissar said coldly. You can speak together. Jasper glanced at me, his eyes full of pleading. But I just looked at him coldly, showing no emotion. Commissar, about Mara's pregnancy, I want to admit. Jasper began, his confession hanging in the air. Admit what? The political commissar asked knowingly. That the child is mine, Jasper said painfully. I'm willing to take full responsibility. The political commissar sneered. You think confessing will lessen your guilt? I know I was wrong. Jasper lowered his head. Wrong? The political commissar roared. You betrayed your wife. Betrayed your family. And you also betrayed the trust of the organization. Commissar, I'm willing to accept any punishment, Jasper declared. Punishment? The political commissar slammed his hand on the table. Do you think this is just a matter of discipline? Do you realize you're also suspected of intentional harm? Jasper trembled violently. What? What intentional harm? Adding hallucinogens to your wife's medication. Trying to drive her insane, what else do you call that? If not intentional harm? The political commissar interrogated sternly. Jasper collapsed into the chair, realizing the situation was irreparably exposed. Now, You are suspended from all duties and will undergo an investigation, the political commissar declared. During the investigation, you will not leave the premises and will not have contact with the involved parties. I understand, Jasper muttered. Defeated, his spirit utterly crushed. Looking at his pathetic state, I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. This was the price of betrayal. As I left the political commissar's office, I took a deep breath of fresh air. In my rebirth, I had finally achieved justice for myself. But this was not the end. A real drama was only just beginning. That afternoon, the entire compound was buzzing. The news of Jasper's suspension spread like wildfire, and everyone was